Daniel Harper and Officer Lisa Moreno never imagined a routine morning patrol on I-96 would turn into a nightmare of smoke, twisted metal, and chaos. Within minutes, their highway became a battlefield of shattered cars and terrified survivors, and the footage from Harper's Bodycam would reveal a shocking truth. This was no accident. It was a calculated act of destruction that would haunt the city forever. The morning air along I-96 was crisp, carrying the faint scent of wet asphalt from an overnight drizzle. Commuters streamed along the highway in their usual rhythm, coffee cups in hand, phones scrolling, earbuds in. Among them, Officer Daniel Harper adjusted his uniform and started his patrol, the weight of his duty pressing lightly on his shoulders. It was a routine day, and the quiet of the early commute offered a deceptive sense of calm. Harper's eyes scanned the road ahead, noting minor traffic infractions and the occasional reckless lane change, but nothing that demanded immediate action. He checked his body cam before leaving the station, the small device a constant companion that would capture the day's events with stark clarity. The sun rose higher, reflecting off the asphalt, and the traffic gradually thickened, a wave of vehicles moving in synchronized chaos, each driver lost in their own world. Suddenly, the radio crackled with urgency. Dispatch reported a multi-vehicle accident near the Grand River Bridge, though the details were fragmented. Initial reports mentioned a fire, multiple injuries, and blocked lanes, but nothing concrete. Harper's heart quickened as he shifted into emergency response mode, sirens blaring and lights flashing. The highway, once orderly and calm, transformed instantly into a scene of tension. Smoke curled faintly in the distance, and the unmistakable scent of burning rubber reached his senses even before he arrived. As Harper rounded the final bend toward the crash site, the full scope of the disaster revealed itself. Twisted metal gleamed under the morning sun, shards of glass littered the asphalt, and vehicles were piled haphazardly as if thrown by an invisible hand. Harper's training took over. He slowed his cruiser cautiously, scanning for immediate threats and assessing the positions of the wrecked cars. Some vehicles had collided at terrifying speeds, their front ends crushed into one another. One car was precariously balanced on the guardrail, smoke and steam rising from its engine. Another had shattered completely, its frame bent like paper. Harper noticed the terrified faces of survivors, dazed and frozen. Some trapped inside their vehicles, others wandering the highway in shock. His body cam recorded everything, capturing the chaotic symphony of emergency, fear, and confusion that played out across the lanes. Amid the carnage, Harper detected anomalies that set off alarms in his mind. A car had clearly accelerated before impact, its trajectory unlike that of the other vehicles. Tire marks suggested abrupt swerves, maneuvers that seemed intentional rather than accidental. The more he moved through the wreckage, the more certain he became that this was not a simple accident. There was a calculated element here, a force shaping chaos with deliberate intent. Harper's pulse quickened, his eyes darting from vehicle to vehicle, noting details that would later prove critical. Debris flew unpredictably with every movement, glass glittering under the morning sun like dangerous confetti, while the sound of sirens, cries, and metal groaning filled the air. Each moment felt surreal, as if the highway had become a battlefield, and Harper's body cam quietly chronicled every second, every angle, every horrifying detail that would later reveal the true nature of the I-96 disaster. The scene was immense, larger than Harper had ever encountered in his decade of service. Smoke hung heavy over the highway, blending with the sharp scent of gasoline. Every lane bore evidence of impact, scratches, dents, and displaced vehicles. Harper moved swiftly, assisting survivors where he could, lifting debris, guiding the injured toward safety. Panic threatened to overwhelm the scene, yet he maintained focus, recording evidence, noting anomalies, and directing attention to the most critical areas. Amid the chaos, the small, blinking red light of his body cam continued its silent, unwavering watch. capturing the terrifying prelude to the investigation that would follow and the harrowing story of the morning that turned I-96 into a corridor of disaster. Emergency vehicles converged on the scene of the I-96 crash with urgent precision. Ambulances, fire trucks, and additional police units arrived from multiple directions, lights flashing and sirens screaming, slicing through the tense morning air. Officer Harper moved quickly, Bodycam recording every detail, documenting the chaos in real time. He began assessing victims, prioritizing the most critical injuries, and helping drivers and passengers escape from crumpled cars. The sheer scale of the disaster was staggering. One car was completely crushed, metal folded like paper, its occupants trapped inside. Flames licked the edges of another vehicle, smoke curling thickly into the sky, while glass and debris littered the asphalt, creating an obstacle course of danger for both victims and responders. Harper's mind raced as he cataloged each hazard, each life in peril, realizing the challenge ahead was enormous. Survivors wandered through the wreckage, dazed and in shock. Some clutched at one another, tears streaming down faces streaked with dirt and soot, while others sat silently, unable to comprehend the sudden violence of the morning. Harper's body cam captured every expression, every moment of panic, the raw fear and confusion etched on the faces of those caught in the disaster. He moved swiftly from vehicle to vehicle, assessing injuries and extracting those he could reach, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down with every passing second. Each rescue required careful maneuvering to avoid further harm, and every decision had immediate consequences. As Harper worked, he noticed patterns that didn't make sense in a typical accident. One car appeared to have been accelerating just before impact, as if it had been deliberately shoved into the flow of traffic. Another vehicle's tires had left marks suggesting a sudden swerve, not in reaction to surrounding cars, but seemingly to create a collision. Harper's instincts, honed through years on the force, screamed that this was not random. Someone had manipulated the traffic, orchestrating chaos with precise timing. The thought made the scene even more terrifying. The emergency response became a coordinated but frantic effort. Firefighters focused on extinguishing flames and stabilizing vehicles, paramedics worked to triage the injured, and additional officers began cordoning off sections of the highway to prevent further accidents. Harper directed traffic, guided by his observations, ensuring that vehicles entering the area did not add to the carnage. Helicopters hovered above, capturing aerial footage of the wreckage, revealing just how widespread the destruction had become. Every second brought new challenges. A car shifting dangerously on its crushed tires, a fuel spill threatening to ignite, a panicked bystander stepping into harm's way. Harper's body cam recorded all of it, a detailed chronicle of human resilience and vulnerability under extreme pressure. Amid the chaos, a grim realization settled over Harper. The patterns of destruction indicated intentionality. The way vehicles had collided, the timing, and the trajectory of some cars pointed to a deliberate act rather than a simple accident. The magnitude of the incident, coupled with the strange anomalies in the wreckage, suggested that someone had planned this, calculated the most devastating outcome possible. Harper moved through the scene with purpose, assisting survivors, documenting every detail, and quietly noting what would later become vital evidence. The morning that began with routine patrols had escalated into a nightmare of mass casualties, and every step he took, every action recorded on his body cam, became part of the unfolding story that investigators would later piece together to reveal the true horror behind the I-96 incident. Investigators pored over the wreckage of I-96 in the hours following the crash, piecing together a timeline that was as shocking as it was tragic. Officer Harper's body cam footage became central to understanding the scale and nature of the incident. Every angle, every split second captured on tape provided insight into how the disaster unfolded. Traffic cameras from nearby intersections were cross-referenced with witness statements, revealing details that initially seemed impossible. One vehicle, a black SUV, appeared repeatedly in surveillance footage, weaving recklessly through traffic just minutes before the collisions. Its movements were deliberate, cutting off multiple cars, forcing sudden swerves, and creating a chain reaction that culminated in the multi-vehicle crash. Forensic analysis confirmed what investigators had begun to suspect. This was not a random accident. Tire marks, skid patterns, and impact angles all indicated intentional manipulation, each detail carefully logged and cross-checked against Harper's Bodycam recording. The SUV's path was reconstructed with meticulous precision. Every lane change, every sudden acceleration, and every near miss with other vehicles painted a picture of calculated chaos. Investigators discovered that the driver had studied traffic patterns, choosing a peak commuting hour to maximize disruption. The Bodycam footage, combined with these findings, revealed moments that were almost cinematic in their horror. Cars skidding uncontrollably, passengers flailing in fear, metal colliding with metal, sparks flying, and glass shattering in slow-motion clarity. Each frame became evidence, an irrefutable record that told the story of deliberate destruction and human vulnerability. As the investigation progressed, authorities identified the driver of the black SUV. He had a criminal history marked by reckless behavior, prior threats, and confrontations with law enforcement. But nothing had suggested he could orchestrate something on this scale. His motivations were murky, but early interviews and background checks hinted at a deep-seated resentment and a fascination with chaos. Police discovered digital evidence on his devices, including maps, traffic studies, and notes outlining strategies for creating collisions. It became clear that the man had planned the incident in chilling detail, selecting routes and timing to maximize impact. The sophistication of his planning shocked even veteran detectives, who had seen countless accidents but rarely encounters with intentional mass destruction on public roads. Meanwhile, the public reaction intensified as Harper's Bodycam footage was released. The video was raw, unfiltered, and immediate. Viewers watched the crash unfold with clarity that news reports could never capture. The footage sparked national outrage, debates about highway safety, and questions about how one individual could inflict so much harm. Families of victims recognized loved ones in the video, reliving moments of terror, while viewers across the country shared and analyzed every second. The Bodycam not only documented the tragedy, but became a symbol of truth, an unarguable record that left no room for doubt or denial. For the investigators, each second of the footage became a key piece of evidence. Skid marks, vehicle positions, and driver reactions were all meticulously noted. The narrative of the crash was no longer just a string of events. It became a story of intention, strategy, and human vulnerability. The pieces slowly fell into place, revealing a calculated act of destruction that transformed I-96 into a scene of devastation. Every frame of Harper's Bodycam, every mark on the asphalt, and every witness account painted a picture that investigators would rely on to build a case that was as shocking as it was undeniable. The I-96 incident was no longer just a traffic disaster. It was a deliberate act of chaos captured in meticulous detail, setting the stage for a manhunt that would soon grip the entire region. The manhunt for the driver of the black SUV consumed law enforcement agencies across multiple counties. As soon as the suspect fled the scene of the I-96 crash, police coordinated a massive search, using every available resource: surveillance cameras, cell phone triangulation, license plate readers, and tips from the public. Officer Harper's Bodycam footage provided a precise timeline of the events, showing the suspect's vehicle entering the highway and the movements leading up to the crash. Investigators used this footage to reconstruct his route and identify possible escape paths, narrowing the search to a network of rural roads and abandoned industrial areas surrounding the city. Officers set up checkpoints, scanning vehicles for the suspect, while helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting live feeds to command centers. Every sighting triggered rapid response teams, but the man seemed to anticipate their movements, slipping through towns and back roads with unnerving precision. Each day without capture increased public fear, and news outlets covered the chase relentlessly. Days into the search, investigators received a tip about an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The location matched the suspect's likely escape route, and police quickly moved in to establish a perimeter. The building, a crumbling structure surrounded by overgrown weeds and rusted fences, offered numerous hiding spots, but officers were determined. Surveillance drones provided live overhead images, showing shadows moving inside the building. Tactical teams approached cautiously, coordinating with negotiators and backup units. Every movement was calculated, informed by Harper's footage, which had given them insight into the suspect's mindset and behavior. As officers closed in, the suspect attempted another escape, bolting through a back entrance and sprinting across a field toward nearby woods. Trained officers intercepted him, forming a perimeter that left him with no viable route. The arrest was tense, every second documented on body cams from multiple officers, including Harper, who had joined to assist in securing the area. The man was subdued without lethal force, but his resistance and panic were palpable, captured in every angle of the recording. The capture brought a sense of relief, but also a sobering realization of the destruction the man had caused. Authorities processed him immediately, collecting evidence and securing his devices to uncover every detail of his plan. Harper's body cam, combined with forensic analysis and surveillance footage, ensured that investigators had an unbroken record from the moment the suspect entered the highway until his final capture. The manhunt, which had stretched for days and gripped the public's attention, ended with him in custody, yet the ramifications of his actions would echo for months. The I-96 crash was now understood not just as an accident, but as a deliberate act of mass destruction, and the bodycam recordings would serve as the definitive account of both the incident and the pursuit that brought the suspect to justice. The aftermath of the I-96 Mass Casualty Incident left a profound mark on the community and everyone involved. Families mourned loved ones lost in the crash, their grief compounded by the knowledge that the disaster had been deliberate. Survivors struggled with both physical injuries and psychological trauma, reliving the terrifying moments captured on Officer Harper's body cam. Hospitals treated the wounded for weeks, while counselors worked tirelessly to help victims and witnesses cope with the shock. Each person affected carried a story of sudden chaos, and the footage from the scene became a haunting reminder of how quickly life could change. The suspect faced a long list of charges, including multiple counts of vehicular manslaughter, attempted murder, reckless endangerment, and conspiracy. Prosecutors emphasized the premeditated nature of the attack, citing the detailed notes, maps, and digital evidence found in his possession. Harper's body cam footage played a pivotal role in the trial, showing the deliberate maneuvers, acceleration, and swerving that led to the collisions. The video provided undeniable proof of intent, leaving no room for claims of accident or negligence. The courtroom was tense as investigators and experts presented evidence, using the recordings to reconstruct the incident second by second, ensuring that the jury could grasp the full scale and gravity of the crime. Public reaction was intense. News outlets broadcasted clips from the body cam, sparking debates about highway safety, law enforcement preparedness, and the limits of criminal intent. Citizens demanded changes to prevent similar incidents, calling for stricter traffic monitoring, better emergency response protocols, and increased awareness of potential threats on major highways. The I-96 crash became a case study in disaster preparedness, with agencies across the state reviewing their procedures and implementing new safety measures. Signage, traffic cameras, and patrol protocols were upgraded, and highway safety campaigns emphasized vigilance and caution, especially during peak travel hours. For Officer Harper, the experience left a lasting impression. His body cam footage had not only documented a tragedy but had preserved a record that ensured justice could be served. Reviewing the recordings was difficult. The images of twisted metal, injured passengers, and desperate survivors haunted him long after the events. Yet he recognized the importance of his role. The recordings allowed investigators to piece together the suspect's actions, helped law enforcement track him during the manhunt, and ultimately provided the evidence needed to secure a conviction. Harper's calm decision-making and attention to detail under pressure had made a difference, capturing the truth when chaos reigned. The community slowly began to heal, though the scars of that day would never fully disappear. Memorials were held along I-96, honoring those lost and celebrating the resilience of survivors. The incident became a lesson in both human vulnerability and preparedness, a reminder of the potential consequences of calculated recklessness. Harper's recordings remained central to the narrative, showing future law enforcement officers and the public the devastating power of intent combined with opportunity. The I-96 Mass Casualty Incident had transformed ordinary morning traffic into a scene of unimaginable horror, but it also highlighted the bravery, skill, and determination of those who responded. The story would endure, not just as a record of tragedy, but as a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice and the unyielding human effort to protect life, even in the face of deliberate destruction.